Okay, I'll close it out here. The 8 worst years of my life were working at St. Francis Hospital as a security guard just to pay the rent and put food on the table. Bukowski tried to get me to write a book. The best thing I could do was write a poem. And our office was right next to the emergency room where I worked the midnight shift, so you just saw death coming through it every night for 8 years. Hospital poem. So many hospitals with so many names of so many saints, it makes the heart want to bleed. St. Francis, St. Mary's, St. Joseph, St. Luke, St. this one and that one. So many people lined up waiting to die, hacking, coughing, spitting up their insides. So many nurses with dollar bill eyes strutting their stuff into the parking lot, too tired for love, too tired to laugh, overcome with failure and fatigue. So many doctors so sad they can't be God, hiding their disappointment in cocktail glasses or between the legs of the angels of mercy. So many cardiac arrests, so many dead on arrivals, so many John Does, so many Jane Does, how many only the business office knows. And the security guards and the housekeeping staff and the accountants and the gray-haired lady volunteers with eyes worn as an Indian head penny. And the young nurses with bodies like orange blossoms, worn down, stepped on, they masturbate with hands and vibrators, some none too cleverly, some like Van Gogh. The doctors, the nurses, the orderlies in white, the priests, the patients, and loved ones, all seeking a private audience with God. Here behind these sterile walls where death stalks the halls, with panting breath licking the crevice of the soul. Death, the noble savage, death, the avenging sadist, leaves behind her scars, plays out the game to the bitter end, a giant hearse among a sea of compact cars. Again, when I got out of the military, jazz was really big, and Fillmore City was known as Bop City. I'm not reading any of those jazz poems, I'm reading one, The Demise of Jazz in the Fillmore, when it all ended. No cool cats blowing the horn, no fallen angels spreading their legs on the way home from a conversation with God, no black cats improvising the blues, no white dudes riding the Midnight Express, no strung-out soul-train musicians blowing mean, clean notes, crucified, suffocating in the smoking mirrors of the mind, gone, buried in the decadence of collective madness. Sign of the times.
Yeah.
Market Street, once a proud queen, now a gaudy whore, worn with time. I passed the Hamburger Palace, the home of the 99-cent hamburger, its doors closed down, its windows covered with grime. Inside, streaks of mustard and ketchup on the counter, a crushed drink cup lies in dirt. Outside, a napkin floats ghost-like on the wind. Not sure where this poem comes from, but sometimes they just come. San Francisco Blues. My illusions are fighting a duel with my delusions. The last time I picked up a white courtesy telephone, the voice on the other end was my own. The dates on my calendar are blank. The pinball machine has no flappers. There's no prize in my Cracker Jack box. My radio plays nothing but commercials. My hand holds my cock in contempt. My love life is an unread resume with too many references. I dreamt I was a gun runner trading hardware for software. I want my photo on a cereal box, not a milk carton. The IRS is a legal shakedown, the Pentagon a slaughterhouse. Jack the Ripper sliced and diced his way through life, and he wasn't even a chef. Freud was impotent but put on a good show. Monks know the truth but won't share it. You know you're in trouble when your shrink deals in fantasies and leaves you with his reality. My life has become a distraction. No additions, no subtractions. When it becomes an abstraction, I'll know I've found success. Read a newer poem, New Year's Day poem, 2012. Some things stick in your mind like dental cement, like your first kiss, the JFK assassination, the wild years, a trip down Highway 101, foot stuck to pedal, hugging the center line at 100 miles an hour. I love 5 in the morning walks, alone with my thoughts, when the shops are closed and people sleeping. My neighborhood a ghost town, still as a lion waiting on its prey. 2011 gone, the reverie put to rest. Insomnia driven, I greet the new year alone, with words that bleed for company. A poem forms, nibbles at my brain, a beggar hungry for food, but the cupboard is empty as I retreat into the amnesia of yesterday. The lost treasure of my youth, a pirate with a graying beard, boarding a ghost ship, rocking aimlessly at sea. Now the poem for that woman that you liked so much in Sacramento. Not in the book, but since it went over so well in Grass Valley, if you remember, they laughed from stanza to stanza.
Yes,
so if you don't laugh at least once or twice, there's either something wrong with you or their audience. Anyway, this is
he needs to tell you that there was the blonde lady who wanted to take him home after the reading.
And I would have went with her edgy ass. she was quite nice looking, I remember. Don't ask, don't tell. She said she was an environmentalist, but drove an SUV. Had a bad smoker's cough, restless leg syndrome, chattering teeth, and a rash the doctors had no explanation for. She owned 2 homes, had no debts, a good job, and money in the bank, but shopped at the thrift shop. She shed men like a tree sheds leaves, liked to talk poetry, but only her own. Enjoyed cunnilingus, but fellatio was not on the menu. Her motto was, when in doubt, don't put it in your mouth, which didn't apply to Starbucks or yuppie restaurants. And she asked me why I thought we weren't compatible. I'm beginning to like that poem. Okay, I'll read 3 more poems and then I'll let you go. I wasn't going to read this, but I have young kids for some reason that visit me. I don't know what they're looking for, what they think I can give them. Probably nothing, because it's becoming less frequent. I don't see them anymore.
That's not true. That's not true.
Trying to find a common bond. This young kid visited me from a small town in the Midwest, and I bought him a drink and managed to get him a joint. And we talked about the old days when North Beach was alive and well. But he wasn't satisfied. He wanted a woman. He wanted me to get him one as if I were a pimp. And worse yet, I was forced to tell him I can't even get one for myself. But he wouldn't believe it. He had read my poems, and perhaps because I had known Bukowski, he felt some of his magic must have rubbed off on me. When he went to play the jukebox, I excused myself and went into the bathroom and contemplated telling him we all lose it, someday, somehow, somewhere, and that it would happen to him too, sooner than later if he insisted on believing in fairy tales. And when I was through relieving myself, I stepped out into the back alley, and there was this dog at the back of another dog, humping away with his tongue hanging out, the other dog more or less looking bored. And I went back into the bar and, against my judgment, put a quarter into the public telephone and dialed the number of this woman I know who liked to fuck young guys. But all I got was a busy signal, and I knew as I headed back to the table, the kid would return home and write a poem about how I had failed him. And I would go home alone and write another poem about how life had failed me. In this, we shared something in common. This is a poem I usually close with, but I'm going to close with a shorter one, so I'm going to just do these two poems. I started off about going back in time, and this is sort of going back in time too. When I was young, I drove to Salinas and ran through the bean fields pretending I was James Dean in East of Eden. I stopped off in Monterey to walk Cannery Row, imagining myself packing sardines in between midnight conversations with Doc and the boys. Driving to Carmel, I scribbled a poem on a cocktail napkin that later became the title for my first poetry book. But rents were high and job pay low, so I took my first full-time job in Modesto. Drove on weekends to Stockton Public Square Park to share a drink with the winos. In Crow's Landing, I drank with Mexican field workers at rundown cantinas. In North Beach, I hung out with fallen angels. In the Mission, I befriended street people fighting alcoholism and junkie tremors. In the Fillmore, I cut my teeth on jazz, let Billie Holiday patch up my bleeding heart. In the Potrero, I saw the last of the factory workers, growing thin as their paycheck, fearing for their job. In the Tenderloin, I drank with whores and prostitutes who opened their pocketbooks as freely as their legs. On Market Street, I witnessed panhandlers crouched in open doorways, a short distance from the Jesus freaks, with billboards pointing the way to heaven. At the old Southern Pacific Railway yard, I saw the last brakeman smoking a cigarette with eyes vacant as an empty satchel. While on the other side of town, high on Nob Hill, society ladies sat in chauffeured limousines, unaware of the dredges of humanity, walking 3rd and Howard Street, drinking cheap port from brown paper bags, starving, cold, disheveled, as the homeless are today, waiting on God or pneumonia to walk them to the grave. That's why I like to close with that poem, but I just wanted to do this one. I'd like to thank all the people that came here today, hear the reading, and my friends that all participated in this. I value them dearly. Also, if anyone wants to buy a copy of the book, there's some up there on the counter. You'll be showing some support for the store here. I'm not making a penny from these. 60% will go to the publisher, and 40% will go to the bookstore, which I want to have. So if you're able to, you might consider it. I'll close with this poem, How I Want to Be Remembered. Play me some Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash. Toast me with a shot of sour mash. Have 6 women do a dance. 1 hooker in leather vest and pants. Carry my ashes to the top of Mount Davis. Have a lone monk trailing behind. Strawberries and champagne served at sunset. Irish whiskey, vodka, and tequila, served by an Irish lass with a dynamite ass. Set up speakers on each side of the hill. Play some poetry by Kaufman and Micheline. Blast some Dylan to the birds flying overhead. Stir up the juices in the living dead. Put a shot glass, a pen, a blank sheet of paper, a poem in the box carrying my ashes. No flowers, no tears, just that lone monk doing a Buddhist chant. Let the sunset be my headstone, my poems, my marker. Thank you.